Welcome to Shovick Sports Shit Podcast. We're just two brothers who just talk sports and give our opinions on today's topics. This is for entertainment purposes only, and these are strictly our opinions and views. So sit back for the next hour and enjoy our sports takes.
All right. Another week, another episode. Thank you for joining us. We are live here on YouTube on our channel. And then it looks like Riverside's also going live on its channel as well. So those links have been provided on our X account. So go find us on X. Gentlemen, we have a guest with us today. He's the host of the Six-Man Blitz, Chi-Town Blitz. So we're super excited to talk Bears tonight. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody, and we'll kind of start the conversation.
Yeah, I'm Micah Huff. Pleasure being on this podcast with you guys. I have my podcast, Chi-Town Blitz, Six-Man Blitz. Check it out, Chi-Town Blitz, mostly Bears and Bulls content, Six-Man Blitz, variety of content with sports. But yeah, always a pleasure being on, talking on other people's podcasts, talking sports. And, as a Bears guy, this is the best time to be talking Bears right now. Before, it was bad, but now it's our time.
Yeah, I'm super thrilled and pumped to actually talk about Bears because obviously one of the more active groups and teams this offseason so far, and they started basically with a bang. So before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to Ohio Sports Talk. Those guys, we've been kind of collabing on the side of Instagram. They have a tournament challenge going on right now. Go find them on the Instagram. It's a $5 per bracket. Those guys have been helping us out, sending out our information, sending out our channel to their followers. So the least we could do is send a message out to all of you guys. So go find them on Instagram, and then they do a live show every Monday and Thursday, and they provide the links on their channel. Bro, how are you doing tonight? And are you excited to talk some Bears?
I'm good. Yeah, I think I agree with Micah. 5 years ago, I would have been like, I want nothing to do with Bears talk. Like 2 to 4 win team. What disaster are they gonna, try to dig themselves out of? But things are looking bright there. I think if you've heard me talk on shows before, it starts top down from GM to coach to quarterback, and I got to think right now they've nailed all three. So honestly, like it is a great time to be a Bears fan.
Yeah, it's funny. Even when it's bad as a Bears fan, they still talk about us. Like, even when things are terrible, the Bears are still featured in, it's Caleb Williams. Should they bench him? Should they bring in Bajent? Just they always have creative ways to, talk about the Bears. But no, it's a good time now.
Yeah, and we talked a lot last year. Caleb Williams, obviously the quarterback in that class, right? So obviously being a Broncos fan myself, I was kind of really paying attention to how the quarterbacks kind of shaped out. Bo Nix obviously falls to Denver, so we were there. We kind of, when we were doing the QB ratings last year, we talked a lot about Caleb Williams and his skill set. I didn't like the fact of who the Bears had as coach.
Yeah.
Staff matters, coaching matters. I said if Eberflus was still there, Caleb Williams was not going to be set up for success. And it's not that he had a terrible season, right? Let's be clear. He didn't have a terrible season, but I do feel Eberflus and the staff just they didn't set him up for success.
No, yeah, and the quarterback class, like the success they had was very predicated to who their coaches was. Bo Nix, he had a great year. Sean Payton, that offense, scheming things open, the check downs, just how the offense was ran was perfectly for Bo Nix and his skill set. Jaden Daniels, we could say he had the best season out of the quarterbacks. And you look at that offense, perfectly, built around him.
Yeah.
And Waldron, oh my goodness. I thought Getsy was bad. Waldron was terrible. But within all the circumstances and all the obstacles Caleb had to overcome, I think he still showed some really good flashes and enough to have, a guy like Ben Johnson, excited to coach a guy like Caleb. It was funny. I don't know if y'all seen how he was getting a little pushback about, him saying coaching Caleb Williams is a huge, kind of like an upgrade over, Jared Goff and something athleticism wise.
Yeah, I mean it's true.
Yes,
right?
It's true.
And then I think the overall Caleb Williams' skill set, he has a little more to offer based on his ability. He can scramble. His arm, obviously, he showed the talent with that. I mean,
arm talent right now, he's top 5.
Yeah,
he made throws last year that you were like, Oh shit!
Yeah, there
Like,
was one specific. It was like
He can
fourth and
sling
like
it.
16. It was like 4th and 16, and I saw the throw, and like DJ Moore had like 3 people on him and about 3 inches of window to get a catch. And like, I don't know. I don't even know if saying it was a laser does it justice, but he showed flashes like it's there, right?
For
Like
sure.
he can throw, he can move, and I think the one thing is like protect him. And Bears wasted about 3 seconds into the offseason to address it.
yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
nice.
So let's talk Ben Johnson real quick. Obviously, Matt Eberflus was a defensive-minded guy. Bears obviously had a good defense, or the defense was set up a little better. But like Austin said, the offensive line wasn't very well coached or just good in general. So what do you think with the addition of Ben Johnson in the staff, and then the moves? Obviously, Joe Tooney, I think Dahlman, they picked him up. Jonah was it
Jackson.
Jonah Jackson.
Mhm.
So what are you envisioning essentially with this offense?
I think with like those moves like Joe Tooney and getting Jonah Jackson, those guards, like it and Ben Johnson coming to the mix, I think the Bears are going to try to run the ball a lot. And we saw them do that in Detroit. The physicality, the aggressiveness, that's something that this Bears team lacked. So I'm excited that offensively we're going to be running it down teams' throats and getting an all-pro level guard. And I think it's going to be important that he's next to Braxton too.
Yep.
A lot of people are saying they're not going to take offensive lineman at pick 10. I think Genty's that guy right there. We'll probably get that into that later, but just
Absolutely.
being next to Braxton is perfectly because right now he's probably the weakness on the offensive line. So having a all pro caliber, like maybe the best guard in football is in that conversation right now. Huge and good run blocker, maulers. Jonah Jackson, I'm even excited about him too. Even, last year with the Rams situation, they had him at center. It's just a disaster of a situation from the beginning. He's going to be back with somebody he's familiar with, Ben Johnson. I think he's going to be back to the Detroit Lions version. So just a 360 overhaul in the interior. Drew Dahlman, even he fits Ben Johnson's scheme very well with how good of a zone blocker he is, the athleticism, he can move. He's kind of like a smaller center, 6'3", 300 pounds, but like he can move, really good, solid run blocker. So yeah, I think it's important for Caleb and his development to have a really solid run game. That's something we didn't, have last year with how poor our offensive line was and Swift, cutting so many times, running in misdirection. So I think that's a big thing about Ben Johnson. He's going to come in and bring a good run offense, heavy run attack, and be creative as hell. That's one of the things we've seen from him too. Just the creativity. I mean, just watching that Green Bay Packers Bears game, him seeing a little like fumble and turn into a touchdown and turning that into a play, he's going to bring that to the Bears, I think. So
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out because with Joe Tooney, not only just being an all-pro guard, like obviously manning his position, I think it helps tremendously to whoever they end up putting at left tackle.
yeah,
Having a guard like that, like it's the little extra things that you don't think of, right? Like on paper, on the surface, you're like, we got an all-pro guard. But what he's going to be able to do with some of the other young guys in the room, but also helping out whoever's left tackle, whoever it ends up being, things like that don't go unnoticed, right? Like that's how you know Chiefs had a terrible left tackle
yeah,
because like you have one of the best quarterbacks at getting like escaping. You're working beside Tooney and Creed Humphrey, and like you still suck. Like so, there was no excuse. So something like that. I'm glad you pointed that out because it's the small things like that that make Joe Tooney even more valuable than what people think.
Yeah, he might be the best like offensive lineman the Bears have had. Obviously Olin Kreutz, or like you got to go back a while. Cody Whitehair was the last Pro Bowler that the Bears had on the offensive line, 2018. Last All Pro player was Olin Kreutz. So, and that's going back some time. So
Yeah.
that
We're
tells
talking decades at that point.
yeah, exactly. So I'm excited about all the additions in the interior on this offensive line. I mean, you're playing with house money heading into the draft, low key now.
Yeah, and we'll get that in a few minutes because I am kind of curious with them being kind of positioned kind of in a prime spot, right? So let's stick with free agency real quick. Obviously, the upgrades to the line. Is there any other moves that you're really excited about, or maybe the prospects of maybe a different move that they may be able to kind of work out either before and or after the draft?
I think the Grady Jarrett move is really exciting. I think just, how the impact of Joe Tooney, leadership wise, and what he could bring to the offensive line, and him being an all pro level player is huge too. But Grady Jarrett, he's somebody else that could bring leadership. I was talking to my brother on our podcast. He could be like Akeem Hicks and how he was for the defense, just a physically dominating player, and he's gonna let you hear it too. We didn't have the Bears had a lot of quiet players on this defense, guys that aren't gonna push you around.
Stevenson.
Yeah, it's Stevenson. So adding a leader into the mix that's he was calling Jordan Love, names, excited to play him twice a year now too. Like just the presence he is, you felt it in the press conference. So I think he'll be a huge impact. And in the draft, I've seen some other moves that we could potentially make. Zadarius Smith is a guy that I wouldn't mind, another veteran edge rusher to add into the mix. You could never have enough pass rush help. The Eagles showed you that in the Super Bowl. So I'd probably lean that route. I'd probably lean that route, adding a veteran edge rusher like a Zadarius Smith or a Judon. We wanted Judon in the last offseason before the Falcons made that move to get him. So just some names to watch there. But in the draft, definitely need a D tackle. Like this class is pretty decent at in the trenches.
Very deep.
So you can't go any wrong. You're playing like the foundation is already set out pretty well. You just gotta get younger at some positions.
So speaking of edge rushers, just because I don't know if we were going to bring it in, I just want to get a Bears point of view on our boy Austin Booker.
Okay.
Don't know if you pay too much attention or you're a Bears fan, but just your feelings on him. Like, think he's someone who can carve out a larger role, or is he one of the ones you think would be kind of kicked out if they bring people in?
I like Austin Booker. I like how he plays with, a high motor. I just, I think having Dennis Allen and this new coaching staff might help him. He definitely needs to put on some weight though, because Dennis Allen likes those bigger frame defensive ends. Dio Odengbo fits more of the mold of a defensive end he likes. But he's got some good traits. I think he could be solid. I was surprised that they didn't give him more reps than, like a DeMarcus Walker, like towards the end of the season when the season was kind of lost. He should have got a lot more reps, but I think he'll be good. He just, development needs to come there for him too. And
that's why I was trying to be realistic. Like, is it someone who might get some PT, or is he like the first one on the chop block? Like, obviously he's our dude, from KU and whatnot, but it's like realistically, like he's probably one of those fringe guys. So I was just curious on how a Bears fan kind of viewed him and felt about him.
I'm a very optimistic Bears fan. It's hard to be at times, but for the most part, I'm very optimistic. So I think if they get a Micah Williams or they go edge, pick 10, they get a guy like that fits more of the mold. He might get pushed out a little, but still a little hopeful for him.
Yeah, and with Dennis Allen, do you see any regression with the defense under the new coaching staff, or do you kind of see maybe he elevates them to kind of, stay maybe at the next level, just because you would expect your offensive numbers are going to go up, right? You expect more points per game. Now your defense, maybe not so much pressure on them like they would in years past.
Well, hopefully Dennis Allen brings a little bit of that nastiness, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like when you think of vintage Bears, you think of just like
Monsters
knocking
of the
people's
Midway.
jaws off. Yeah, exactly. So like I think for like just like getting back to Bears culture, it's a good fit. But how do you feel with the new coach?
I think we're gonna be aggressive on both sides of the ball. Ben Johnson, like I said, was gonna bring that, but Dennis Allen, this is one of the most aggressive defensive coordinators in the NFL. He blitzes a lot, and I think with Eberflus, the defense they would bank on 4 guys getting home, and we weren't good enough for that. So I feel like there was too many times where he was passive. So I think adding Dennis Allen is gonna improve that. A guy like Kyler Gordon, I think, will have the best season and benefit from the most from having him. We might see him have like 3 to 4 sacks just off them corner blitzes, and just how they could use him in coverage in the nickel. I'm excited about that. But I think Dennis Allen's going to have his defense playing at a top 5 level for real. They were fringe with Eberflus like at times, but I think this defense is going to play a lot better.
Yeah, a little less like bend but don't break hope
Yeah,
and more just like
exactly.
aggressive. Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes we would have what's his name, Justin Jones in coverage. We'd have our defensive tackle dropping back in coverage. Like, nah, it's not gonna work.
Not in today's league, no.
No, and I mean sometimes you do have the more athletic guys. There was times where, I would see Von Miller would drop back in the coverage, or
Mhm.
they'd have, others outside linebackers kind of like hit the flats just in case. So let's kind of move towards the division, right? This is a good division,
Go Packers.
It's really good.
right? So you think of, I do think there's going to be a slight regression of the Lions a little bit. I think if you're
I think
losing
so
out
too.
on, you lose both your coordinators, right? Coordinators are obviously hard to find. We're really going to see the kind of coach Dan Quinn really is. That's how Dan Campbell, sorry. You always find out how good of a head coach you are by being able to replace your coordinators, and obviously two good ones. So then we move on to the Packers, right? Matt LaFleur is still there. Jordan Love's still there. They've done some smaller moves, right?
Yeah.
And then the Vikings, JJ McCarthy. I mean,
that's my dude.
I think it's gonna be big this year. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, this is gonna be a fun division, right? So like, the Bears were kind of the bottom, right? Like Denver's been there forever for the AFC West. Now we finally had a nice little turnaround. I could see the kind of similar turnaround for the Bears this season, similar to what Denver was able to do. Where do you think it stacks up with the North?
I think I was just thinking about this the other day. I think the Packers are going to be the worst team in this division.
I agree.
And
I do agree.
The lack of move. Aaron Banks, Nate Hobbs. I mean, they gave Aaron Banks a bag, and they already have a left tackle in Elton Jenkins. Nate Hobbs is a solid corner, but I think the moves the Vikings made. JJ McCarthy, like we said last year, Caleb Williams was in the best position for a rookie ever. JJ McCarthy is in that position now with all the weapons he has.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see how he does in Minnesota. Well, not excited, but I think he'll do good. I think he'll do good. So I think they'll be probably in that same 2 to 3 spot. I think the Bears will probably move up over the Packers. Hey, we beat them at Lambeau week 17, week 18. People can't forget about that. I haven't.
Nah.
Right.
So I like the moves that the Bears have made, and I like having the new head coach, Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen, DC. Detroit, I think Detroit's still going to be in that spot. Honestly, Minnesota, depending on how JJ does, if he's slightly above average, that's probably the biggest competition to Philly in the NFC, if you think about it. How that roster is constructed right now, all the pieces they have, the biggest needs they had, interior offensive line, their offensive line was bad. The Rams exposed them. Defensive line, they couldn't get any pressure up the middle. Now they have Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. So I think this division is going to be a lot of fun. 3 playoff teams once again. Bears, Vikings, Lions in the NFC, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right with the Packers, man. Like, they needed they need to go get playmakers, right? Like, I think Jordan Love's a good quarterback. LaFleur's a good play caller, but, like, people have to make plays. And so, like, their big receiver move is McCole Hardman. Like, you have to at least try. You have to at least try to address what you need. And like you said, the Vikings did it. The Bears went out and did it immediately with the staff and line. The Packers didn't do anything. Like, you can't stand pat and think you're just going to be better.
Yeah.
That's no team in any sport will ever do that. So, I joked about saying go Packers, right? But it's like at the same time, like, you got to do something, especially within that division. Like, you're crazy if you think you can just stand pat.
Yeah, and they were 1-5 in the NFC North last year. Should have been 0-6 if Cairo Santos makes that field goal that first time they played. So
that was a week after Denver lost in Kansas City on a blocked field goal. I was like, holy shit, is this going to continue to be a thing? Like,
yeah.
Y'all get a new kicker? Y'all cut him, or are you sticking with him? I don't know what happened.
I love Cairo, but his leg, he doesn't have enough power. And hopefully...
No, I remember him in Kansas City. Like, anything beyond, like, 42 yards, you're kind of holding your breath, and that doesn't cut it, especially in Chicago, right? It's not exactly kicker friendly all the time.
Exactly.
So that's why I was curious. I'm like, a field goal kicker these days is a game changer. If you have that, Brandon Aubrey, where you can actually, once you're at midfield, you're in range. So I didn't know if they cut him, stuck with him, brought someone in, or at least, maybe draft one. But you got to have that kicker.
We should look to upgrade in low-key because, I'm a big Cairo fan, but Just the amount of times a field goal was blocked after that Packers game too. Like that game exposed it a little more. But another thing too, I think with Ben Johnson though as a coach,
Oh yeah.
he's gonna have a little more awareness. Eberflus, they're banking on a 47-yard field goal. They're running the clock out to kick a field goal when there's more situational awareness with Ben Johnson. I hope. So
Well, and you think he brings that aggressive nature from Detroit and kind of just always goes for it on fourth down?
I hope so.
Like if that's the case, then like Cairo is only going to need to hit some extra points, right? But
Exactly.
yeah, that's what I'm most excited. I'm curious to see how if we see the Lions here because I think Dan Campbell makes the calls on aggressiveness.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to see how Ben Johnson finds his middle ground for himself. So yeah, a lot of exciting stuff.
I think it's like that's a good point too. Like Ben Johnson being with Dan Campbell, taking some of his tendencies over to Chicago. I think, yeah, he's going to be him and Aaron Glenn too. I think those guys are
Mhm.
going to bring those same tendencies over to their new spots. And yeah, that's the big thing that was, bad about the Bears last year. The passiveness in situations, especially in the fourth quarter. We're running the clock out, bringing the field goal unit out. We're, all these mishaps in the fourth quarter is lack of aggressiveness, and now we got that with Ben Johnson.
Yeah, again, I still look at this division as I do agree with the 3 playoff teams. I didn't know if I was ready to say the Packers would be the worst team in that division, but I mean, you could end up looking at it as all 4 of these teams go above 500. That's just
Exactly, yeah.
how this could be. And then now, how do you stack up with the Philly? I think the Rams are going to be better again this year. So it's like the NFC typically has been one like real top heavy, right? Now you're starting to kind of get into that kind of parity of things balancing out. And I think Caleb Williams is a huge. I mean, this is like a massive step that you guys could possibly take.
I know it's exciting. I mean, I think Caleb, yeah, with the flashes, the potential he's shown, especially in the NFC North games, he's put together some really good performances. That first Green Bay performance where the 4th and 16 completion, putting them in field goal position, he showed clutchness that we didn't see from Justin. I love Justin, but we didn't see that from him.
Same.
So I think, yeah, I think he could end up being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, top 10 at some point. Him and Daniels. I know people do these redrafts. They're like, "Oh, the Bears would take Jaden Daniels."
yeah,
I
yeah.
still think the pick should have been Caleb.
Well, yeah, the people went where like what fit them, right? So like even a redraft, like Jaden Daniels still fits the best in Washington,
Yeah,
right? Like, you know what I mean? So
But,
yeah,
and I think it does flip. I think if Caleb Williams does go to Washington, they have Cliff Kingsbury there, right?
Hmm.
So I think you're getting the same, if not better, results if he would have been drafted by Washington.
I've been thinking that. I think Caleb maybe has a better
Yeah,
season in Washington than Jaden. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, Terry McLaurin. I mean, you still end up having good targets and good, good offense around him. But I don't know if I guess. Do you think, as far as like being a runner, obviously we were able to see what Daniels did in Washington. Do you think Caleb has that, or do you think? I know he wants to stay in that pocket and he tries in last second. What do you think his prospects would be if he were to, become that second level player and run?
He has the ability. He's like you said, he prefers not to, and I wish he did because he has that athleticism. He can make defenders miss and stuff, but instead he slides. Instead of getting the first down, he gets out of bounds, and instead of
Mhm.
getting the first down. So I wish he does that a little more. Maybe Ben Johnson brings that out of him a little more. He could get some quarterback run designs like he has. We've seen him at USC have that athletic ability put on full display. He's got the speed. He's got more like Mahomes. You know how he has that elusiveness. I think he's got a lot of that in him too. But I understand wants to take care of his body and stuff. The thing he needs to stop doing is sliding, like fake sliding before he goes out of bounds. And they like hit him right. That.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think some of those sacks that he was taking in some of those games, those were backbreakers.
Yes,
And I get it.
exactly.
You want to make the play, but and again, this is coaching. This is all coaching. Like Ben Johnson and those guys are going to tell him, hey, instead of scrambling, rolling out, going all the way back across
Go
the
bite
field.
someone's kneecaps.
Go and then throw. It's okay to play boring. It's okay to throw the ball away and get to the next play instead of taking a 20-yard sack. Now you're setting yourself up 3rd and 25, 3rd and 30. Then you're getting a 4th and 15, 4th and 20. So again, I'm a huge component of coaching matters, and I think that's why it is kind of hard to not think about what would have been if he does get drafted by Washington. Like, what is it? What do the Bears look like with Jaden Daniels? Because he is not afraid to run. Like, he will run, and he'll take off. And obviously, we saw his running abilities. So, all right, let's.
I want to low key before we start moving on from the Bears roster. I at least want to make sure we shout out a very underrated, underappreciated 1-2 receiver duo. We know I'm a big Rome fan, a Dunze fan, and
Rome.
DJ Moore fan. Yeah, like I never draft rookies in fantasy football. I've never been that guy, but I drafted him. Probably not quite the year to have him, but still, I don't think people are talking enough about that duo, right? Like DJ Moore's always been underappreciated, but mostly because he was in Carolina. But he still came in Chicago and was productive. So like, let's not sleep on those targets, right? Like, I'm not quite saying they're JJ and Addison or T. Higgins and Jamar, but like,
so
maybe right there.
Let's dive into the skill position real quick. I mean, obviously, they tried to set Caleb up with the skill positions, and Swift's not a terrible running back by any means. Could they upgrade? Maybe, but I still think he's a good enough running back in the NFL. So, what do you think with the skill position players, and obviously with DJ and Rome? And I'm not even Cole Kmet as well.
Yeah, I think honestly, I was saying this a while back that the Bears have better skill position players than Detroit. So I'm really excited to see how Ben Johnson uses these guys. I think there's more depth. Gibbs, obviously, he's a top running back in the NFL. They beat us with that, but I think DJ Moore could put up those same Brown numbers with a guy like Ben Johnson scheming him open and using them. A big thing with last year too, Waldron didn't know how to use all these guys.
Yeah.
We saw when Thomas Brown took over, Keenan Allen's getting a bunch of targets, Rome's getting more targets, Cole Kmet, all these guys are getting targets. So I think with the competent offensive mind, we'll see, these guys used exactly how they should be. But I'm excited. Cole Kmet, he's a really good tight end, underappreciated. You see how the offense looks when he gets 0 targets. We don't move the ball at all. But when he gets those targets, when he gets, involved, the offense opens up. DJ Moore, big time playmaker. We should use him definitely how Thomas Brown was using him towards the end. Put him in the backfield, giving him some handoffs every now and then. Quick screens to him, I'm excited about that. But Rome, I think he could benefit the most from having Ben Johnson too. I think he could be an 1,000-yard receiver this year. I know his receiver class that he came out of is really good. Like there's Brian Thomas Jr., Neighbors, Marvin Harrison. I think he'll have take a better leap, have a better season. But if Rome came out in this draft class, he'd be the best receiver in the class. I think
easily.
And I think you actually had him fairly high when we were talking about. I mean, obviously Brian Thomas was your number 1.
Yeah, I actually took Rome 2.
Yeah,
I've always been I love Brian Thomas. Like that dude. Like I'm sorry he's dying in Jacksonville, but I had Rome as my second. Like that dude, he's big, he's fast, he's physical, he's got good hands, he's fearless. He's honestly kind of another DJ Moore. Like you have 2 strong receivers, athletic, and I don't know. Even as a Chiefs fan, I would love to have both those receivers on my team, right? Like I know we're going to Super Bowls and whatnot already, but like those 2 dudes would be nasty.
Which one's throwing a touchdown first?
I'd probably say Rome. I trust Rome more.
Nah, I'm gonna go with your right tackle.
Well, now you got to think about that.
Darnell Wright is gonna catch a pass.
Now you got to think about all the trick plays, and like I'm really excited to see how this turns out, just because the Bears are it's a good roster.
Yes.
On paper they are fantastic.
Let's not sit here and beat around the bush. Like this is a great roster, and you have a great coach to go along with this roster. And that's why I was so excited to talk to you about what this roster and what this team could look like and do, because you think about all the trick plays that Lions did last year, and there's guys catching touchdowns that you're like, where did that come
Skipper,
from?
bro. Dan Skipper.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I wanted
So
Dan Skipper to sign with the Bears, man, but he went back to Detroit.
So it's like, who's going to do it, and where's it going to come from? I think Rome Odunze is going to benefit. He's going to be the guy on the jet sweeps. He's there's going to be so many different variants. Swift might even throw some out of the backfield.
Oh yeah,
that's the exciting part, because now it's sitting here like, what are you going to game plan for if you're a defensive coordinator? Like, you got to stop Caleb Williams, or are you going to stop the running game? Like, I think that's what makes me most excited about this team. So
Yeah, and we know I'm gonna say something about the defense real quick because that's who I am. My favorite Bears player, Brisker.
I love Brisker, man.
Like,
He's so
I
good.
don't know, it's something about him. Like, I just love watching him play. He's not talked about as one of the best safeties in football for whatever reason, but I mean, give me Brisker 7 days a week, specifically on Sundays, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm a defensive guy, so that's like I'm pointing that. I love the like Lance Brigg, Brian Urlacher days, right? Like
He
that's
fits that
really where
mold.
I started loving defense.
Yeah,
he does.
he's that
Yeah,
that
that's where I
hard hitting
started loving
safety.
defense.
Yeah, Briggs too. Yeah, I love those guys.
Those Urlacher days, but yeah, Brisker. Like, so give me your thoughts on Brisker, and then like besides Caleb Williams, because I'm just gonna assume everyone's favorite player is quarterback.
Mhm.
So besides Caleb Williams, like who's your Bears guy? Like, do you have one that like far and above your favorite?
Okay. Brisker, he's an all-pro safety if he could play 17 games. If he can avoid getting concussions, he's that good. But my favorite Bears player, probably Kyler Gordon. I love Kyler Gordon.
Okay.
He's phenomenal. Spider, like,
Look, you went defense. So I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
he is like, he's probably our best player on defense. I know Jalen Johnson's an all-pro level corner, but you look at like talent, skill, like the athleticism, it's all there with him. Doing backflips and shoulder pads and stuff. Like, there's some plays you see him make, and you're like, how does this even happen? Just he's that kind of level player, and I think he'll take the biggest jump this year on our defense. With Dennis Allen coming in the mix, the Bears need to extend him before he has a really good season with Dennis Allen, though. That's something that needs to happen.
Well, and the way guys are starting to get bags thrown at them,
I know.
You
You
don't
have the JC Horns of the world getting $100 million, and it's like, well, shit.
Yeah, and you got to take advantage of having a rookie quarterback or a rookie contract, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So before we jump into the draft, let's talk about if there's one concern heading into this next season, whether it's the adjustment from a new coaching staff, quarterback molding with the coach, right? So like, what is one concern, or maybe something that you're really gonna keep your eye on as you head into the next season?
I think my biggest concern offensively might be, like, I think it's probably Braxton and what he can do for us at left tackle. He's above average left tackle, but could we be looking on later on in the season like maybe we should have upgraded that position in the draft? Because I feel like the Bears could very much well go into the season not doing anything at that position, leaving Braxton there. That could be something that could bite us, later on. That's probably my biggest concern, because I think Tooney's going to be a sure thing. I think Jonah Jackson's going to be a good player for us. Drew Dahlman and Caleb and these weapons, I have no concerns about them with Ben Johnson.
Right.
I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but Keenan Allen, that's somebody I wanted to bring back. I don't know how it looks now with bringing in Devin Duvernay and Zacchaeus, but Keenan Allen, that was probably my favorite Bears player last year, honestly.
Yeah, and I look at Cooper Kupp just signed that contract, right?
A
15
crazy
mil
bag.
a season. Crazy, right? So it's like, is Keenan gonna try to like do the same thing? Because if he does, and I'm saying no thanks.
Yeah.
Like,
He's
you've done your part, but let's come on, man. Like, work with us here because we have something good going. We got a quarterback on a rookie contract, so like, yeah, I mean,
He's in that like 8 to 10 mil range now. Is just like a reliable vet. You're no longer that all pro game changer, right? So like, you got to bring that down.
Though. He could be.
I don't know if he has that. Like, he's up there now.
He came up pretty big for him towards the last few games last year.
He had a good connection with Caleb too towards the end of the year, yeah.
And I think he's still good to have around the younger guys too, right? Like
Rome and them,
could
yeah.
benefit. Like DJ Moore, yeah, he's a veteran, but he could still benefit from having a guy like Keenan Allen around.
Another coach on the field,
like,
yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So it's like, but there's got to be the right price tag. Like I kept hearing Denver's in the mix for Cooper Kupp, and I'm like, no, we don't, and damn sure not for 15 mil a season. Like,
Nah, he's
not a
not getting
chance.
that. He like
No,
the market for him right now. I don't think he's I don't think he's got much of a market. Cooper Kupp, I mean, him to Seattle, it made a lot of sense. They gave him a pretty
yep,
decent bag, but Keenan, he doesn't have that market anymore. And I
No.
mean, honestly, teams should have been signed him by now.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, absolutely.
so I think there's a little more of a negotiating, leverage to the Bears if they do want to bring back Keenan. It's like, the Chargers just got Mike Williams back. So who's really your best option? Come back to the Bears on a discount, play with Caleb. Be a part of maybe something special this season. Who knows?
Come
But
to Kansas City.
oh,
Come to Kansas
I don't want to see him in Kansas City. That would be
Ah, man,
that'd be
that's
nasty.
it really would. And yeah, I mean, when you think of a veteran receiver like that, I mean, you saw Devontae. Obviously, he got paid 2-year deal. Cooper Kupp, and then now you still look at like Amari Cooper's still out there. Like, there's still some really good veteran receivers out there, but it's like, are the Bears truly like super desperate to bring in a veteran receiver, or is
No.
this something where let's see who falls in the draft? Like, maybe we find one in the 3rd or 4th round that maybe starts out as special teams, but then they can work their way up. Or, well, nothing really fell to us in the draft. Let's see if Keenan Allen's still out there.
Mhm.
Maybe renegotiate and re-up the talks with that, or Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett. I think Tyler Lockett would fit good with that young of an offense.
He knows his role. Yeah, he's a true professional. I think he would go to the Raiders, but if he's not on the Raiders, I would definitely bring him in as a third receiver.
Yeah, I hope the Raiders don't.
Yeah, please. I wanted him in Kansas City before he was released.
He's still
Because you hear the talks, and I'm like, please come to Kansas City, man. Like, just
Yeah.
someone who can catch a football reliably.
Yeah, so let's jump into it. I've watched some of your prospect breakdown and what you've been kind of talking about. You've kind of done a nice job breaking positions down.
Thank you.
So let's go through maybe one of your favorite ones that you've maybe looked at and you've studied that think, we get this guy in Chicago, we might be able to fucking make. I mean, this might be a game wrecker.
I would say Genty would be the great game wrecker, but the thing about that is the running back class is so deep. Like you could get another running back that just fits in perfectly, like a Judkins, Henderson, any of the Ohio State running backs. I even like Damian Martinez, the running back from Miami, as that big back that fits alongside Swift. I do like Micah Williams.
Neal.
Yeah, Devin Neal. Yeah. He was really good. He was the reason that they beat Colorado. I was rooting for Colorado in that game. But I think Micah Williams is somebody else. James Pierce Jr. is a name I liked a lot too, but
that's my dude.
He might go to Philly. How it's looking, the character issues, all that stuff. They're spewing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, he might end up in Philly, but we really can't go no wrong. That's a fun part of it. Another name at first I was like, why would we get a tight end? But Tyler Warren. Could you imagine him with Cole Kmet? Ben Johnson.
I could.
Ben Johnson runs a lot of 12 personnel. Another guy he could get really creative with. We saw him at Penn State, Wildcat formations and stuff. So, yeah, it's exciting. Draft night. I can't even have like a 90% sure pick for the Bears yet. That's a fun part of it. Fun part about it.
Yeah, I think Genty is the one that would be the game changer for me.
Yes.
Just if it's anything like Detroit, right? Like, he kind of becomes the dude with Swift being that, quote unquote Gibbs, not as electric, but kind of that duo. I don't know. He is coming from a place where Detroit drafted Gibbs and everyone basically.
I hated that pick at first. I was like, that pick's stupid.
Now look, right?
Yeah.
But I think Genty would be like the next level for them. I am a believer that Genty, he can translate to the NFL. You don't just, you don't get weaker or anything when you get to the NFL. Like, he has the good balance, vision. He's proven he can carry the rock 65 times in a game. So I do think that would be a game changer for the Bears. I think that would help establish. I like Swift, but I don't think he's like that true running back like Genty.
No,
like he would take Ben Johnson's offense to where it needs to go.
Right, exactly. And behind like Drew Dahlman and Joe Tooney running in that left side A gap, Genty running it, like that's what Swift couldn't do. He couldn't run in between the tackles. But him as an RB2, like you said, like kind of a poor man's Gibbs, like him, in the passing attack, screen passes, and then just him on, third down situations. I would like that role a lot more for him, because he did make some big plays. There was times where he was the best player in the offense, Swift, but Genty could take us to that next level and help Caleb get to that next level too.
Yeah, I think just in the Ben Johnson offense, right? Like Genty is perfect. Now, what pick do the Bears have?
Pick 10.
See, that's where you're getting a little close. Like that might be high for a running back, but we've said it. The Bears roster is kind of set, right?
It's a luxury
you're kind of
pick.
playing with house money. Yeah, like you're playing with house money right now.
Yeah, it's fun times.
I think a guy like Genty makes sense. It's fun time. Yeah,
him
come a long way.
him or Marion Hampton. Like literally, when I can't think what I would tell myself a couple years ago. Oh, we're gonna take a running back with our first round pick. I would be like, what?
Right. Yeah.
That's one thing though the Bears have had success with is running back. Jordan Howard had a nice run. Tariq Cohen, Montgomery. I think that was one of the biggest, players that left the Bears, and I was just like, come on, what are we doing?
Can't forget my favorite Matt Forte. That's why I said
Matt
Devin
Forte
Neal.
too, another dude.
That's kind of who Devin Neal reminds me of. Just a smart runner, reliable catcher. Like, that's the only reason. Well, not the only reason I said Devin Neal, but that's who he reminds. That would be my player comp.
That's
but
a good comp.
What you're getting at too is now you're seeing how deep the running backs really are. So, and I know you mentioned earlier in the show about tackles, right? I do like the Mizzou tackle.
I think he's the best option.
I think you kind of have to take that chance at 10 because at the end of the day, the number one goal is you protect your quarterback.
Yep.
And you're in a division. You just mentioned the Vikings making all those D-line moves.
Yes.
Right. So Aiden Hutchinson's also in the division. Those guys. So.
And then the Packers.
Then there's
Luke Van Ness. Just him.
Right. So I do think tackle is the right call, but again, it's not a make or break. If you do walk away with a Genty, I think as a Bears fan, you're happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you take a really true deep dive, maybe it doesn't hurt to get a tackle here and maybe worry about a different running back later on in the second, third round. Because I don't know how many picks the Bears are rolling into the draft with, but I still think that you're able to get a running back at any point in the draft.
Yeah, I think Ben Johnson will have to see how he feels. Because I think it'd be a little too soon. Like, if this was previous staff, it'd be a little too soon to give up on Braxton.
Yeah.
I think it depends how Ben Johnson feels, right? But, I mean, as a Chiefs fan, everyone witnessed the Super Bowl. You can never have enough tackles, right?
Yeah, they need a tackle.
You're really set, you can never have enough tackles. Even if you draft one and he's a swing tackle, right? So now you have depth at both tackles. Or if one of them, is struggling, you have one to go in. So tackles are never a bad pick at any point at any time.
No, you can never have enough offense linemen, and even making the move to get Jackson, Drew Dahlman, Tooney, like you'd still want a guard in there, a backup guard, somebody with position flexibility. Yep. I do like Donovan Jackson, guard from Ohio State. He could slide in. He played tackle too. He could play center, guard, all around the offensive line. That's a pick I would take second or third round, but. I think somebody that will cause this decision, depending on how they feel about Kyron Amegaji. I know he had some poor tape. That Vikings game, one of the first games he started, it was bad, but he still has some good traits. Bears fans on Twitter and stuff are giving up on him already, unfortunately. But that's somebody that still could show you some promise and could be that option. Because Braxton Jones, I think he has 1 year left on his deal. So you could go that route, build around get a replacement for Tooney, and get a running back second, third round. It's just like you could make so many mock drafts, many. You could go a different route each mock draft. But I think the pick I'm leaning more towards right now is probably Genty. I think Genty.
Give us your sleeper for any just a guy who. Maybe people are talking about the maybe second round, maybe late first, second, maybe even a third round guy that you for us we were talking about Jackson Dart a couple weeks ago and about his prospects of we think he could end up being QB2. I mean the Ward and Shador are obviously there, but I wouldn't sleep too much on like a Jackson Dart. And if he has a good enough offseason, like pro day, get a decent, okay combine. But that was our sleeper, was a Jackson Dart, maybe sneaking into the top 15, maybe even sleeping into the top 10.
This might sound crazy. As I was thinking about this, it sounds crazy.
We like crazy. We like crazy.
Yeah.
The Giants are probably not going to get a quarterback. They're not going to get Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is probably going to go to the Steelers. I think Cam Ward goes to Tennessee, and Shador goes to Cleveland. Jalen Milroe.
Oh shit.
Jalen Milroe to the Giants.
He had a good pro day today, from what I read.
They had him like at a 4.39, 4.37.
4.39.
Alabama had him at that. But you look at the quarterbacks that Brian Dable works well with, those mobile quarterbacks. Let him develop. Let Brian Dable work with him, and bring in Jameis Winston. That's somebody I've been seeing that.
That's our boy. That's
Jameis.
our boy.
Yeah,
Malik Neighbors
came on here tonight.
Him and Jameis Winston. So,
yeah, and again, you know what he's going to give you, right?
You'll put up points.
Exactly.
And turnovers.
Fantasy-wise.
Yeah.
But your defense, I think the Giants' defense is really set up really well.
Top 5 defense, probably.
Exactly. So it's like, you're not going to get any worse, right? So what's the harm of bringing in a guy like Jameis? I actually never thought about that.
I didn't either.
You could go that route, have Jameis Winston, and I feel like he's a perfect veteran for a young quarterback, to take a young quarterback under his wing, support him, give him
nothing but love and positivity.
Exactly. I mean, he was pretty much like the biggest fan for Deshaun Watson. Every time Deshaun Watson have a bad game, he's in the press conferences like, I know him as a person. I know him as he was defending his ass in the press conferences. But Jalen Milroe, I think that's somebody that would fit in well, being in a good situation, like with the Giants and Dable. They're fighting for their jobs over there. So Jameis and Milroe would be a good combination. I'm trying to think of another sleeper.
That would be wild.
That would be wild. I like the Devin Neal pick for a sleeper, because I think he'd be a really good steal for anybody that needs a running back. Even teams that have a running back that's getting a little older. I like the Miami.
And DJ Giddens is another one. We have, obviously, Kansas State. We were able to see DJ Giddens quite a bit too. Obviously, I'm not going to say he's better than Devin Neal, but I do think DJ Giddens is going to be
solid,
pretty good NFL running. I think about maybe a little bit bigger than Montgomery, right? But I think he's right there as far as, I think he's good out of the backfield, catching the ball. So again, another good sleeper.
Yeah, so many running backs. If you can't tell, we just keep naming I think we're up to like 20 running backs right now.
It's crazy. You're in this is probably the best class we've seen of running backs. I think their 40 times were like the highest that we've seen. All the the numbers at the combine were crazy. I think Xavier Restrepo, the receiver from Miami. I like him. I hope the Bears take him with one of their picks.
That's just a tough dude.
Yeah, exactly. He might end up in Tennessee with Cam Ward, though. Who knows how they go down. Try to keep that connection. But like a really good receiver. Really like what he did this year over there. That's a name I've been, eyeing and trying to do some more, research on. But now you really.
Yeah, I think we have a Jared Verse in this draft.
Okay.
Nick Scorton, he was projected really high before the season, and now I've seen him fall as far as to the Chiefs.
Oof.
Which blows my mind.
Let's not let that happen.
I don't know if it counts.
Let's not let that happen.
Yeah, so I mean, I hope it happens, but I don't know what happened. I know A&M underperformed, but it's not like he got worse. So that's kind of my Jared Verse of this draft, right? Jared Verse was before the season projected top 5, and then fell all the way to the Rams, and we saw what happened. I personally hope he falls to 31, but I don't think a team like the Ravens would let that happen, right?
No.
He's on the board. They're like, okay. There's smart teams ahead of the Chiefs that are like, okay. But that's kind of I don't know if he can count as a sleeper, but I'm calling it my Jared Verse pick.
I think pick 31 for you guys. I think the perfect pick for you guys would be Josh Simmons, the tackle from Ohio State. I think he's the best left tackle in this draft class. For just him having that torn ACL, getting hurt, he has, the best traits, the best size. it wouldn't make sense for the Bears to take him at 10 with how the board's looking. But if they trade down and they end up with him, I wouldn't mind that at all. Like I think
more picks.
I think he'd be a good pick for you guys and the Bears too.
Yeah, I don't know if you can tell this yet. I'm a defensive guy, so I obviously know we need tackles, but I'm kind of falling in love with that Derek Harmon from Oregon.
Yeah, he's a nice
right there. Like Chris Jones ain't getting any younger. Chiefs D line is already not deep and very good anyway. So I know tackle makes the most sense, but I'm always gonna hope for a defensive guy.
Yeah, Mike Green or somebody like that with Karlaftis. Yeah, it would be insane.
Oh yeah. What do you think the likelihood of them trading out of the number 10?
Just depends how the board goes. If Genty's gone, if let's say the Raiders take Genty, and could happen.
Yeah, it could.
Will Campbell's gone off the board. It just depends because some people are saying they're not high on the Bears to take an offensive lineman. They feel like that's out of the cards for pick 10. So if you're looking at taking an edge, then I think then you trade back. You could get Micah Williams and you trade back and get maybe a second or third, another, a fourth, another pick because we're a little light after the fourth round. I think we have like 3 picks in the last rounds of the draft. So I think if Genty's gone, you trade down. Maybe you take Amarian Hampton too. With the trade down situation.
Do you think just there's going to be a run of like the quarterbacks and edge rushers? Would you be mad with getting that Michigan D tackle at 9? I know you said a little bit there.
That's one guy I would trade up for.
Yeah, that's my dude.
He's going to be phenomenal. Yeah. Him next to Dexter would be insane. And
learning from Grady Jarrett, right? Like that rotation you have right there in the interior. That's where my mind goes on things like this. Like, okay, yeah, they don't necessarily have to have that, but can you just think of that rotation? Mm-hmm. And you started to see, right, like the Eagles, how have they been dominating? They figured out their D-line, and it's nasty, and it's deep.
That's all you need.
Teams, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like, in my head, I'm like, that would be a nasty. I know D-tackle's not sexy, right? Like, outside of Aaron Donald, nobody's going to jump up and down for a D-tackle. But I don't know. I'm just thinking prime Bears with that kind of rotation and
would be
on the
insane.
D-line is just gross.
I think, him up the middle next to Dexter, Billings, Jarrett, rotation would solve our defense would, I would say unspeakable things about our defense. I think number one defense in the NFL if you get Mason Graham.
Because how I'm thinking Ben Johnson's going to be, he's going to be a lot like a lot of these young coaches, right? Mm-hmm. They're confident in themselves. He's probably sitting back thinking, I have everything I need offensively. Let's stack this defense and really just go all out, right?
Would make sense.
He's cocky enough to I got what I need offensively. I'll make it work. Like, I'm good enough to get the most out of this.
I think
let's do this defense.
He could very much be thinking that because you look at the offense line, the interior was our biggest problem. Cole Kmet, you still have him. You have Adunze, you have DJ Moore, Caleb. You could get by with Swift and then draft a running back with one of your later picks. Yep. Yeah, so defense early would make some sense, and this defense is already pretty exciting. The good thing about hiring a guy like Dennis Allen, too, is he's not getting another head coaching job. He's going to be around.
Nope.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. He's had his run at head coach, and then obviously the stuff in New Orleans. But as a D coordinator, his record speaks for itself as a coordinator.
Yeah.
What he's been able to do with pretty good defenses. So it's prediction time.
Okay.
I know it's way, way, way too early, and maybe we'll have you on again once we get close to this. But sitting here today, knowing the moves they've done, and let's say they do take Genty at 10. What's the record and where are they finishing at in the North?
Okay. If I had to, so I seen their schedule the other day, and it looked pretty decent. Let me see if I'll be keeping tabs on this.
So you're gonna chalk it up 6-0 in division.
Oh, honestly, Detroit doesn't want to see us. Like if we get, we should have beat Detroit twice the year we had Justin.
Yeah.
Should have beat them twice. Things go your way. I think coaching adds a different level to this Bears team.
Always.
So yes. I think the Bears right off the bat are gonna sweep Green Bay this year. I think they're gonna sweep Green Bay twice this year. 2-0.
Mark it now, everyone. Mark it down.
Hey, book it.
Book it.
the team that scares me the most in this division is probably Minnesota.
Yeah.
Just with what Brian Flores does with that defense, now having two interior guys that can get after the quarterback. Kevin O'Connell is a really good coach. I think JJ is going to be good this year, so we'll split with them. And Detroit, we'll split with Detroit too. So
That's still 4-2.
Yeah. So 4-2 in the division, and then our schedule is not easy. It's not easy. So I'll probably say 10-7, and in the playoffs as a wild card team.
Damn, I guess I was way higher.
I would put them at 10-7. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Because the schedule's tough. If we play all the AFC North teams, we got Baltimore, Bengals. We got a lot of tough teams on the schedule this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, and again, I still look at it as you have a good quarterback, so that pieces are there. Yes, you have Ben Johnson, but what's Ben Johnson as a head coach?
Yeah,
right. Like, how's he?
There's still some uncertainty.
Yeah. So how's his prep? How's his game day? Or it's not just offense now. Now it's the whole team. How you getting the troops ready, right? So 10-7 is absolutely doable. I do say their ceiling's probably maybe 12.
Nope. See, that's wild. I before any of this conversation happened, and you asked, in my head I said 13-4.
You're bullshit. Bullshit.
Dude, I've had some.
Their defense.
Yes.
Everyone's talking about their offense. It's their defense for me. They were still a good defense last year.
And they'll be better this year.
Defense wins.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean,
And I think Ben Johnson does enough offensively to not cost you games.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to have to see Taylor punt 65 times in a week.
That's a huge jump, though.
Exactly.
That's a huge jump year one. And maybe you're right.
Washington did it. Houston did it. Like, it's more common now.
That is true.
When you get the pieces in play. Because we're sitting here, we don't know what to expect from the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Well, neither do any of the opponents they're going to play.
Now, if we get Genty, depending on how the draft go, I'll be with you at 13-4, 12-5. Like I've said some egregious early predictions. Some Justin Fields teams. I was like, hey, 12-5, hey, 11-6, and then we go 3-14, or we, have the exact opposite season. Sometimes a tough schedule ends up being an easy schedule. Sometimes the other way around. So the schedule.
Well, I think you guys were on your way this year. That Tyreek Stevenson Hail Mary, that put you guys in a funk for a few weeks, man.
Yes,
like,
it was tough.
You can say what you want, but momentum's a hell of a thing, especially in football. And you have something like that. That puts you guys in a funk. You guys get a couple more wins just if that doesn't happen.
I saw that they were showing clips of that, on St. Patty's Day at the bar and shit. So it's just that play forever is gonna damage me. But I think this Bears team, they could have, just adding Ben Johnson. I think that's probably 5 more wins. Because how many games has Eberflus cost us? Over his tenure with the Bears, the Broncos game, the Lions, like so many games where he's mismanaged, the clock, mismanaged, timeouts, all this stuff. So I think even Ben Johnson,
that was a bad Broncos team.
Yeah,
that was a terrible Broncos team.
Well, I think it could matter. Like if you guys play the Vikings early on, like JJ McCarthy is still a big question mark, right? So like we're sitting here like they have a great roster, but quarterback is the most important.
If we get him early,
you play them early. Yeah, if you get him early, you could steal a win. But then long term, he may not pan out. So like, obviously 13-4 is best case scenario, right? Like things fall their way. Ben Johnson does what he's supposed to, and that defense takes a step. But then the Packers are as bad as we think. JJ McCarthy doesn't pan out. Like things have to go, obviously, every year. But with what they have and my belief in the coaching, I don't think 13 wins is even like that wild to think of.
I think
it's a stretch.
Yeah.
I get it, and people aren't going to think that. But like when you seriously sit and think about it, I don't think it's that big of a stretch. I don't think people should be surprised if they get to that 12-13 win mark.
The pieces are there. I think it's just people are going to be like, because we're the off-season champs every year. People are going to be, like, oh, we thought this was going to happen last year. Or like, this is something I've been saying every year. 13-4, 12-5. So that was my hesitation.
That's to be right one time.
Yeah, it's got to go right one time. And getting Ben Johnson one off-season after getting Caleb Williams, sometimes it takes, 3 tries. sometimes
I truly thought that's what they were going to do last year. I thought they were going to get rid of Eberflus. I thought they were going to sweet talk Ben Johnson into getting out,
Yeah,
and they were going to do that.
people were saying like Poles brought back, Eberflus because he couldn't get Ben Johnson. It was just like, let me get him next year. I don't know. I like Poles,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's all there, and I don't know. I feel like the off-season champs this year even feels a little different than previous years, right? Like
Exactly. It
you were
feels good.
off-season champs previously, but this year you were off-season champs nailing what you needed. You're off-season champs by getting the hottest head coaching candidate. You're off-season champs now, but you have a quarterback in place already. Like all of those things were never true in the past.
Mhm. Yeah, it definitely feels different. Just thinking about it, just how the interior just going from Sam Mustipher, Patrick, Shelton to an actual center that's what was the best center available in free agency. Having an All-Pro left guard, like things feel very different.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to hype you up, right? Like
I'm
that's
I'm
truly what I've
hyped.
like if I thought they sucked, I'd be like 4 wins, but like for real though, like I'm a believer in what they have going there. So like I'm not just saying 13 wins to hype you up. Like I truly think they'll be a really good team this year.
Yeah, non-biased opinion. I love to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll look and see the rest of the offseason moves and what they're able to kind of accomplish after the draft and leading up, because you never know what moves will be made,
Mhm.
injuries, and hopefully no major injuries happen there. So
Even for the Packers, we don't wish that.
Yeah. Well, Micah, thanks again for joining us tonight. Go ahead and give everybody where they can find you at on the socials.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. It's pleasure as always. Check me out on Instagram, X, TikTok, all under Chi-Town Blitz and Six Man Blitz. Post content on those two platforms daily, on YouTube as well under Chi-Town Blitz, Six Man Blitz. But yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, and we'll tag all this on Instagram, and I'll come find you on X as well.
Okay.
That way it gives everybody the chance to come find you. Both YouTube channels, right? Both have separate YouTube channels.
Yeah, both have separate YouTube channels.
Perfect. Well, we have OC News 365 joining us next week. Matt coming back on the show for the third time this year. We're going to talk some offensive line, defensive line prospects in the draft, kind of see where the Broncos and Chiefs may look at for the draft. Again, you can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, iHeart. Find the YouTube channel. Find us on Instagram. We're over 700 followers now, so we're slowly creeping up. We're very thankful for that. Now we're working on our X account. I finally got that fired back up, so we're working on getting more followers. So find us on X, and we'll talk to you guys next week.